politicians. It was also who's responsible for turning this situation around. Dr. Richmond, I want you to take that question, but let's bring Jeffrey in since he hasn't said anything. Whatever you want to say something about it.
Just in response to the last caller, I'm not a Memphian. However, just to give a little bit of insight on what your concern is I don't think that it's just a Memphis issue. This is, every city, every state in the United States. Find me one political system and find me one city government in the United States that you can verify and say that without a shadow of a doubt that they are 100% just. This is what we are striving towards, is to create our government and our politics and the court systems all to have justice, because that is what we are fighting for.
Fighting. Pat, you want to jump in there?
Yes, I would like to jump in there behind Mr. Price. I would like to say what we are going to do. We are going to call for a petition December 16th, next city council meeting in front of City Hall. We will be bringing forth a petition to start at the top and beginning our recall process. And we want to especially focus on those people in District 8 and District 3. Come out and sign the petition. You want change in Memphis. Now is the time. December 16th, 12 o'clock p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Dr. Richmond?
Well, so much is being said that, I don't want to duplicate. I think that all of these things that we're talking about, let me start with Jolene, organizing group. I couldn't agree with her more. As an example, I have sent out, I guess, in a lifetime, 1,000 press releases naming, saying, and this media refuses. If you're addressing the real question of racism and oppression of our people, they will not breathe a word of it. All right, so in response to what she was saying, I think all of us who have voices ought to put our voices into action and call for that mass protest demonstration where we call the roll on the police killings. All of us, like we're sitting here, all of us standing there reading a riot act about these police and what they're doing to our people. And on the petition campaign that seemed to be launched. I think that, it has to be launched by somebody or some group or some organization. It can't be just some, all right, and I feel that the United Voices,
yes,
whatever they're going to be called,
yes,
ought to be those who are sponsoring the recall petition campaign. Okay? Meaning that I think while we need to talk together, we need to do something together. And I believe that Ferguson is pointing the way to what can be done. The reason the conversation is now on the world stage is because those people in Ferguson did something that we fail to look at when we talk about getting something done in American society, where we are considered, whether you like it or not, as slaves. A slave, if you are not going to confront and challenge your captivity, and that means, I don't care what it is, whether it's a wall that's been built up, whether it's a thought that's been perpetrated, whether it's a religion that has been imposed, if you don't move to where you're going to effectively denounce it and break that down, there is nothing going to happen. Those people stayed 100 days in the snow and brought a movement to world attention. Now some things are getting done. I think we in Memphis, we United Voices, ought to unite our bodies and our resources, put our names on something that we all are behind and supportive of.
Yes, we have a call on the line.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Yes.
Were you trying to break in?
Carter, and I actually was born here in Memphis. I'm here visiting. But I'm from Chicago, which is one of the most racist cities in this country. I've been there 25 years as an activist. We fight these same issues. Here, and I'm, like I said, I'm visiting here today. I've been doing some research around the politics of Memphis, and these three names have really come up in most cases when you're dealing with economics here. One of the guys' name is Belt, and then there's a guy named Henry Thurley, and Robert Lipscomb. Mainly, I want to mention this guy, Robert Lipscomb, because he's part of the infrastructure across this country. And if you can read this book by Otis Graham called Our Kind of People, these are black folks who work on behalf of the white power structure to keep us in bondage. Keep things quiet when the police shoot a young man or a young woman. This is going on in Chicago, Detroit, Memphis, all these major cities where you have these black Uncle Toms and Sambos who quiet any dissent against the system. Now, here's your solution. Socially, economically, and politically, you must take your cities back. Just marching and talking about these issues, you're not going to get to the bottom of it. When you go after the social, economic, and political structure, that's when you begin to get the attention of the people. The people have been pimped too long, so they don't feel the marching. But when you show them how to eat, like we say all the time, if you feed them, you can lead them. And I just watch how Memphis and some of these other cities have been dummied down, and the people are just scared to raise up on these issues. The Chicago police have shot so many young men and women, it's just a shame. So what we've come to the conclusion is that we must sue the federal government for funding these police, giving them guns and vests.
All right, thank you, caller.
Yeah.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone want to respond to what the brother said? But I want someone to respond to Phil Price, the way he set that up. And that is the caller who was talking about the politicians and recall, because he raised the question about the responsibility of the politicians, but he also raised the question about whose responsibility, and that gets us into the citizens of Memphis, the civilians. A double responsibility. Omar, I want to go to you.
You know, just like they have in presidential elections, you can only run 2 terms, and then you out. They need to have that in local politics, so that you don't get ingrained in the political process and you get bought off by corporations and private interests, and then you don't represent the people anymore. Once you serve 1 or 2 terms, it should be over with. You're done with it forever. Ain't no career you're gonna make out of it, and then somebody else comes up and takes that reins and moves on, moves progress forward for the people.
Yeah, so it's an evolving process constantly. Pat, you wanted to say something else, I think.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Dr. Richmond was saying about us having a voice and being able to go, well, not being able to have certain things put in certain newspapers. So I just wanted to let the public know that African American Voice newspaper, thanks to James Johnson, is back in business. And so we will be petitioning you all to please help to sponsor the African American Voice newspaper. Thank you.
Okay. Miss Sarah Clark has now joined us, and she's waving me off.
She'll be with you in a minute.
Can we come back to you? I thought we were in the middle of a football play. Not yet. Who's next?
Let me speak on that briefly. Let me speak on that real briefly. Bottom line, when it all comes to that, it takes a lot of things to get something this evil actually put in check. There's so many different assets and things to do it, but when it comes down to, you have to understand your enemy. First of all, like you were talking about football. You cannot beat an opponent if you have no idea who the opponent is. Okay? If you go out there unprepared, then you're going to get slaughtered. There's just no way around it. Until we understand the mindset of the people that's actually destroying black people, then we are never going to win this war. You just cannot fight a war just waking up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to go in here and go to battle and try to see what I can do to help these black people. You're wasting your time. So the bottom line right now for the corporate white people and those that, like you said, is taking over the election, and that's a wonderful idea a brother came up with. Give them 2 terms, get out. Because by the time you start making a career out of the corporations that have actually bought you out by that point. The bottom line is we have to actually stop buying in to stupidity. And I just said sometimes we're the people stuck on stupid. We keep going out and buying things that we know that own, controlled, and made by white people, and then ask them to stop doing us harm. You can't do that. We go out and buy all the white press, and then ask them, like my brother was talking about, we got to get the white press to start giving us justice. They print for their people. That's what they do. We need to have more black press that's going to do what? Take care of the truth and print for our people. We're not saying print lies, but print some of the positive things that black people are doing in our community. Print some of the positive things that our schools are doing. We never get that stuff. They run down there every time they start a fist fight. The white press want to run down there like it's some a big atomic bomb just landed in the Memphis, Tennessee area in another city. We have to demand respect. You're never going to get respect from anybody if you keep, like my man said, like it's a privilege. Will you please start respecting me? These white folks not going to do it as a whole. So and let me close.
Yeah.
We got to stop putting money into things like they got this new movie coming out, which makes me sick to the stomach. Every time I turn around, they got white people playing the role of biblical day. Back in the biblical day, there were no white people back there in the Noah days. There were no white people back there in the Moses days. But we go out there and spend $1 billion on one of these movies projecting white folks as the savior, and that will keep our children and our people thinking, you know what, in order to be right, these white folks have to run and do everything and we fall behind. That's a lie. They were not white.
All right, Darren, let me set this next question up. The last caller was talking about, in effect, he had a particular strategy. I didn't totally agree with him, because like Kwame Ture said a long time ago, if all you have to fight with is rocks, throw rocks. If that's all you got, and you just may win. So it's a matter of consistency. Then I heard you talking just then, Derek, some of what Kakai said. I hear you talking about studying. I hear you talking about reading and knowing your enemy. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're talking about. Then you have to apply. And necessarily come back to the drawing board and reapply. And one of the things that comes to mind when we talk about studying is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Kakai, now I'll come back to you, man.
No.
Expound a little bit, if you will.
Well, there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot of issues that's going on in our community. Some of us get confused, discombobulated, because it's too much for us to do all at one time. What we have to recognize is that we have to learn from our history, draw from that, and come up with conclusions and solutions to a problem that we have today. If we had a problem in the past, trust me, it evolved into a different problem today, or a more complex problem of today. So we have to have a better solution or a more complex solution, maybe something out of the box that's not traditional, that people really won't understand initially, but it's the solution to the problem. See, when Malcolm X was here, and he started talking about human rights and bringing it to the international field for recognition, then something happened. See, we have to recognize that when the United States helped Sudan, or helped South Africa, or helped Israel, it's a national level of recognition in all of those countries. Go and support the people who are being neglected of having their rights, period. And when those people don't have their rights in those countries, they don't have money and arms to fight initially. What they do is they embark on a campaign to get support internationally so that financial support can come. We can't do it by ourselves here in the United States. We don't have the money. We would be a fool to get up, try to fight them without the ammunition, without the arms, and everything that we need to stand up for our rights. And trust me, we are defending ourselves. We're not going out here killing people haphazardly. We're not killing people. They put that on the news to make us think that we're villains and malicious and we're doing all of these things, but they're doing it to us. And if we're going to do something, we have to do it on the international market and get some support internationally so we can do the right thing.
Okay, Brother Kakai, I've got another question. And they're going to go, actually, to everyone. Ms. Clark, raise your hand when you're ready. I want to go to Jeffrey right quick, then to you, Dr. Richland. I'm a bit confused. as to the lack of specificity. So I hear Brother Kakayi expanding the discussion. Human rights, I hear him expanding it to international augmentation, if you will. I can't find the right word. But I like those. But what I'm concerned about is the level of strategy that must be approached when we talk about those and they and we and us. Jeffrey, can you address some of those specific questions? And then you, Dr. Richmond.
I'll be happy to. First, in the society that we live in, we're at this panel, we're trying to figure out problems and solutions. And I think, just to be quite specific, we have to narrow down what our problems is and find the root of the problem. And we might be able to find that they all stem from one thing. We have issues in our politics and government and economics, just to name a few. But these problems that we realize are nothing but what we call a Latin function of another problem, of another issue. You might look at it and say, well, we have a disparity in the economics, black versus white. You might look at education and say there's this disparity in education. But you can look at those two institutions and say, well, what are causing these disparities? What's causing these disparities may be one and the same. I'd like to call it, we fight for justice. Justice, the fight for justice, is counter racism. Racism is the root. If you're not fighting racism, you're not attacking the problem. If we cannot come to a common agreement that is the main problem, then everything else that we're doing is going to be of no value and of no benefit if we cannot openly discuss what the problem is. Now, when I talk about, when you ask a question about us and we, who are us and who are they?
I'm looking for specifics.
Being specific, we have people who are indigenous people all over the world who have what some will refer to as melanin, what Dr. Sebi will refer to as people who are carbon, who have high levels of carbon in their skin, which causes pigment. You have other people who are melanin deficient or who may not have as much carbon, but if we look at the history and we look at patterns in society, we want to try to find out what's going on in the world, where we have a group of people who are the minority people of the earth, who are going all over the world in many countries and continents that are persecuting and exploiting other people. I see these people as, there's just two groups. Either with them, when I say them, we're talking about those who are exploiters. We're talking about those who are, I'll just be blunt. We're talking about Europeans. We're talking about Anglo-Saxons.
Okay, all right. I want to go to Dr. Richmond. You were sounding good, doing good, on a good, nice roll there, but don't want to cut you off right now. We'll come back to you. I want to go to Dr. Richmond. Dr. Richmond, when you hear the word racism, now, I'm also hearing a two-part dilemma, white supremacy. Do the two go together? Or how do we specifically break that down?
Well, Brother Presiding Officer, I was not prepared to defend any particular issue tonight, but,
Okay.
but to respond to what you're saying first, the organization that I'm trying to run and have been for the last couple of years, the name of it is Mission on Religion and Racism, which my understanding of the history are the two most tragic, whatever you want to call them, institutions or thought patterns responsible for our disposition. Racism, sanctioned by religion, that we as a people have bought into. And I want to say this, every one of us now that's going to a slave church, or got our children attending one of these slave churches, there's no use you talking about doing anything, because if you're not going to denounce that,